You step out of the shower, and there it is again. Hair on the drain. Not one or two strands, a little the pipe. And you tell yourself it's normal, everybody sheds. And you dry off and you don't look too hard in the mirror because the light in that bathroom makes the top of your head look thinner than it did last year. Here's the thing nobody told you. The bottle in your shower and the thick, sudsy, nice-smelling bottle you've been trusting twice a day might be part of the reason that clump keeps showing up. Some of the most common shampoos on the shelf are quietly working against the very hair you're trying to save. The industry has known since the 1970s, and by the time daily washing became gospel, they made sure you'd never connect the bottle to the drain. Let me tell you who I am first, because you shouldn't take a word of this on faith. My name's Frank Moretti, third-generation barber. My grandfather Joe opened Moretti's barbershop in 1946, right after he came home from the war. My father Sal ran that chair through the 50s and 60s. And I swept the hair off that floor when I was 10 years old. Got my own license in 1974, 50 years behind the chair. More than 100,000 heads have passed under these hands. I retired in 2022, and that's the important part. Because now I've got no product to sell you, no boss, nobody left to answer to. I can finally say the things a working barber never could. And listen, let's talk about what this is costing you. The average man spends somewhere between $200 and $400 a year on hair products. Shampoos, conditioners, the thickening serum with the fancy label, the dry shampoo, and the dry shampoo market alone is about $4 billion a year now, projected to double by 2030. $4 billion on a can. But the money's not even the worst of it. I've watched what thinning does to a man. He starts wearing the ball cap indoors. He stops standing in the back row of the photo. He ducks out entirely, says he'll take the picture instead. He picks the booth in the restaurant with the dim light. In a survey of 2,000 men, 94% said going bald was their single biggest fear about getting old. 94, not half, not 70. 94% of men lie awake over this, and a good chunk of them are pouring gasoline on the fire twice a day and calling it grooming. So stay with me all the way to the end, because I'm going to count these down from the least harmful to the one I'd tell my own son to pour down the sink tonight. And after number 1, I'll give you the 2 things that are actually safe to wash with, straight out of my father's notebook. Number 1 is going to surprise you because it's probably the exact bottle you think is helping. Now, before the list, you need to understand the world these products replaced. Picture my father's shop in 1955. A man didn't wash his hair every day back then, once, maybe twice a week, and nobody was bald at 40. He came in for his cut, and he got the whole ritual. Hot towel wrapped around the neck and scalp, steam opening everything up, a splash of bay rum, some witch hazel worked in with the fingertips, and then the friction. My father's hands going in circles over the scalp, firm, deliberate, for a good 2-3 minutes. That friction pulled blood up into the skin. The scalp is soil, and blood is the water and the fertilizer. Feed the soil, the crop grows. Then came the 70s, and the whole thing flipped. Somebody figured out that if they could convince you to wash every single day, you'd buy a bottle every few weeks instead of a bar of soap that lasted a season. Daily washing became the American norm almost overnight. And to make daily washing feel good, they loaded the bottles with harsh detergents to make big foam, silicones to make it feel slick, and fragrance to make it smell expensive. None of that feeds the soil. Some of it strips it bare. Here's the mechanism, plain and simple, because you need to understand it to see why the list matters. Your hair thins for a few reasons, and the big one is a hormone called DHT. DHT shrinks the follicle a little more each cycle. The hair comes back finer, weaker, until it doesn't come back at all. Over half of men show real pattern loss by 50. That's about 35 million men in this country. Now, most shampoos can't touch your hormones, but what they can do is wreck the environment that follicle is trying to grow in. Harsh sulfate detergents strip the natural oil, the sebum, that protects your scalp. Strip it every day, and the scalp gets inflamed, dry, irritated, and an inflamed scalp is bad soil. A miniaturizing follicle in bad soil doesn't stand a chance. There's real research here too. Back in 2015, a randomized trial in the journal Skin Med put rosemary oil head-to-head against minoxidil 2%, 100 patients, 6 months. And the rosemary did just as well on hair count with less scalp itching. Less itching, think about that. The gentle thing did the same job and irritated the scalp less. That's the whole principle behind everything I'm about to tell you. So let's count them down. Number 7, the 2-in-1, the shampoo plus conditioner in one bottle, the one they sell you on convenience. Here's the problem. To clean and condition in the same wash, they use a coating agent that leaves a film on the hair shaft and the scalp. Feels smooth, but that film builds up and clogs the follicle opening, and it can trap the harsh detergent right against your skin. I had men in my chair for years with a scalp that flaked no matter what they did, and half the time it cleared up the week they stopped using the all-in-one. It's the least harmful on this list, but it's lazy chemistry. The cheap fix: separate your wash from your conditioner and keep the conditioner on the lengths, never rubbed into the scalp. Number 6, the volumizing shampoo, the one that promises thicker, fuller hair. Read what it actually does. It doesn't grow anything. It coats each strand with a resin that swells it up so it feels fatter, and it strips your natural oil aggressively so the hair stands away from the head and looks bigger. You're trading real oil for the illusion of volume. Over months, that daily stripping leaves the scalp dry and tight. I watched a man chase volume for 2 years and end up with less hair than he started with because the soil was cracked dry the whole time. The cheap fix: skip the volume promise entirely and wash less often. That alone gives you more body than any resin. Number 5, the medicated dandruff shampoo used every day. Now, if you've got real dandruff, these have their place once or twice a week. But men get told to use them daily, and the active ingredients in some of them are strong antifungals that, used every single day, keep the scalp irritated and stripped. I sat men in my chair who'd been on a daily dandruff wash for years, and their scalp was angry and red under the hair. The cheap fix: twice a week maximum, and rinse it long and cold. Number 4, the clarifying or deep cleansing shampoo. This is the one that squeaks, that squeaky clean feeling you love. That's the sound of a stripped scalp. These are packed with the strongest sulfate detergents on the shelf, designed to blast away every trace of oil. And the sebum they blast away is your scalp's own protection. Strip it daily, and the scalp overproduces oil to compensate. So you feel greasy. So you clarify again, a loop that keeps you buying and keeps your scalp inflamed. The cheap fix: never use a clarifier more than once a month, and never on a thinning crown. Number 3, the heavily fragranced luxury shampoo. The expensive one, the one that smells like a spa. That perfume is a cocktail of synthetic fragrance compounds, and the scalp, thin skin, wide open follicles, absorbs and reacts to them. I've seen more contact irritation from luxury scent than from any cheap bar of soap. An irritated follicle is a shrinking follicle. You're paying $40 to inflame your own soil. The cheap fix: unscented or scented only with actual essential oil, nothing that just says fragrance on the label. And before I give you number 2 and number 1, remember, number 1 is likely the exact bottle sitting in your shower right now, the one you think is on your side. Number 2, the dry shampoo, the $4 billion can. It doesn't clean anything. It sprays starch and aerosol onto your scalp to soak up oil so you can skip a wash. Sounds harmless, but that starch cakes down into the follicle opening, mixes with your sebum, and forms a plug. And a plugged follicle is a suffocated follicle. I met men who used it daily between washes for years and had the most clogged, congested scalps I ever put my hands on. The cheap fix: throw the can out and just wash less with something gentle. Your scalp doesn't need starch, it needs to breathe. And number 1, the everyday sulfate shampoo, the big, cheap, foamy bottle, that you know the one, a shape you'd recognize on any pharmacy shelf, the color that says family size. This is number 1 not because it's the harshest single product, but because it's the one nearly every man uses every single day without a second thought. Sodium lauryl sulfate and its cousins are industrial degreasers. the same class of detergent used to cut grease off engine parts. It's in your shampoo to make that satisfying foam. And every day, it strips your scalp bare, dries it out, inflames it, and leaves your thinning follicles trying to survive in cracked dirt. It's not the villain because it's exotic. It's the villain because it's ordinary and daily and trusted. That's the whole trick. It didn't get popular because it works best. It got popular because it foams cheap and you buy it forever. Now here's what to use instead. The two things straight out of my father's notebook. First, a sulfate-free wash, no more than 2 or 3 times a week. Look at the label. If the first detergent is something ending in glucoside or betaine instead of sulfate, you're fine. That's about $8 to $12 a bottle, and it lasts twice as long because you're washing half as often. Second, the rosemary rinse Sal swore by. Take fresh water, warm, not hot, and add about 5 drops of rosemary essential oil and 5 drops of peppermint to a cup, always diluted, never straight on the skin, and after your wash, work it into the scalp with your fingertips for 2 full minutes. That's the friction, that's the blood flow, that's the soil getting fed. 2 minutes, 3 times a week. All in, you're spending maybe $15 a month instead of $40. Here's the honesty you won't hear from anyone selling you something. None of this will bring back a follicle that's already dead and gone. If the top of your head is bare and shiny, that skin is smooth, that crop's been harvested and no shampoo, no oil, no ritual is raising it. What this does is protect and thicken what's still there and still fighting. And listen, I'm not a doctor, I'm a barber, but I've seen more scalps than any doctor ever will. So hear me on this. If your hair's falling out in sudden patches or coming out fast in handfuls, that's a different animal entirely. Go see a dermatologist, don't mess around. And whatever your doctor already has you on, whatever's prescribed, you keep taking it. Nothing I'm telling you replaces that. This sits alongside it. And always patch test the oil on the inside of your arm first, because some skin doesn't agree with rosemary, and you want to know that before it's on your head. Nothing caustic, nothing undiluted, ever. Give it 8 to 12 weeks before you judge a single thing. Hair grows slow. Anybody promising you a change in 2 weeks is lying to you. Let me tell you about Danny. Danny sat in my chair. Oh, this was around 2016, 2017. He was maybe 42, worked as a firefighter, and he was using that everyday foamy bottle twice a day because his hair got greasy on shift. His crown was going and his scalp was tight and flaky under my fingers. I told him what I just told you. Cut it to 3 washes a week, sulfate-free, and the rosemary rinse before bed. He grumbled about the extra 2 minutes. But Danny was stubborn in the good way. He actually did it. First month, nothing. Second month, he said his scalp stopped itching. Around month 4, he came in and sat down, and I ran my hands over that crown, and there was a fuzz of new fine hairs where it had been thinning, and the hair that was left felt thicker, stood up better. Not a miracle, not a full head back, just a man who stopped starving his own scalp and gave it a fighting chance. And that rosemary rinse, I want you to know where it comes from. I've got my father's notebook right here, brown leather, cracked at the spine, and the pages are soft as cloth from 50 years of thumbs. Page 31. He wrote it in pencil, and at the top of the page, in that careful slanted hand of his, it says March 1958. And under the recipe, he wrote one line that I've carried my whole life. He wrote, "Feed the ground, not the sail. Feed the ground, not the sail." My father understood 65 years ago that a man's scalp is soil, and that the moment somebody figured out how to sell you a bottle every 3 weeks, they stopped caring whether the ground was fed. He knew. He wrote it down in pencil so it wouldn't get thrown away. The knowledge didn't disappear. It just stopped being profitable to teach you. That's the whole story of that shelf in your bathroom. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which one of these 7 is sitting in your shower right now? And what did your father wash his hair with before all the bottles? I read every one of these, and I answer the ones I can. And subscribe, because next time I'm opening the notebook to the page my father wrote about the one drugstore ingredient, cost about $3, that he mixed into his tonic to slow a receding hairline at the temples. The industry buried it because you can't patent something that cheap. That one's coming and you won't want to miss it.